Hey, eighth grade. Here's a pretty funny Abraham Lincoln joke I found online about the Missouri Compromise. And this is something that Abraham Lincoln really did say. He says, "It used to amuse me sometime to find that the slaveholders wanted more territory because they had not room enough for their slaves. And yet they complained of not having the slave trade because they wanted more slaves for their room." Oh, nothing like middle 19th century humor. I think that's a pretty funny quote. Um, we will be learning about President Lincoln in an upcoming chapter, but today we are going to be learning more about westward expansion and its effects on the slavery debate and how it led to something called the Missouri Compromise. Right. Um, so here's a joke about the Missouri Compromise. What was the Missouri Compromise? It maintained the balance of slavery between northern and southern states. Oh, man. If you know what the Missouri Compromise is, you're probably laughing pretty hard at that one. Okay. So I believe I got a little cut off in the last video for some reason. I don't know why, but I was talking about capitalist investment in the road system. And I was saying that because government didn't really have the capacity or the interest in building an extensive road system in the United States, it fell to capitalists to find a way to profit by building roads. So the reason capitalists want to build roads is because they need to ship supplies to and from their factories. They need to ship goods to and from their factories. And one of their costs are delays and problems caused by difficulties in shipping. Right? And if you're not near a river or an ocean, it's really difficult for you to ship your goods by wagon across roads that were like first created by Native Americans, right? So capitalists had a pretty good incentive to create a road system. Right? Now, a capitalist, of course, isn't going to do this out of the goodness of his or her heart. Why should he? Right? So they needed to find a way to make money to create a road system. Building roads is a very labor-intensive, very lengthy, very expensive process. Right? So capitalists saw that by investing their capital in constructing roads, they could make money by allowing goods to be shipped quickly, but B, they could turn some of their roads into toll roads or turnpikes. Right? So a toll road or a turnpike is a kind of road where you pay a fee in order to travel on that road. Right? So if your parents commute into Orange County maybe or into LA for work, they might pay the toll. They might take the toll roads. So if they do that, what they do is they pay a fee each month or each year in order to use this toll road. Right. So capitalists saw that they could build roads and make money, not only because they'd be able to ship their goods a lot faster, but also because they could charge travelers to use the road. So toll roads, turnpikes were a pretty good solution to America's transportation problem. Right. So roads are a really big improvement over other ways that people would try to transport goods through the wilderness. But most roads at this time were not going to be paved. So traveling on them was still really difficult and still really slow. So actually the fastest, most efficient, cheapest way to transport goods was over water. Right? So if you're on the East Coast, you can transport goods from like the port of Boston to a port in Maine, right? On a ship, on a clipper maybe. If you're near a river, you could transport goods using steamboats or rafts or other things like this. That's nice. But what about people who don't live along large bodies of water? Well, for them, the fastest, most efficient way to ship goods was by digging canals. So a canal is a channel that is cut through land and filled with water. So a canal will connect a large body of water, um, and it becomes an artificial river. Right? You can control the flow of water through the canal. You can control how much water is in the canal at any given time, right? And it's basically a man-made river that allows goods to be transported, right? So boats loaded with goods could cut through these canals to transport their goods from one factory to another. Now, why were canals built when there are so many rivers in the United States? Well, the reason canals were built is because almost all flowing rivers in the United States run north-south, right? They go north and south. Well, if you need to travel east or west, prior to the digging of canals, you had to do it mostly via road, right? Well, a canal can run east-west because it's built by humans and they can determine which direction it runs, where it goes, right? So New York was the state that really got on the canal building enterprise. They built a massive canal called the Erie Canal, and it connected New York City to Lake Erie, right? And this canal by itself dramatically increased the capacity of all these factories along this canal to produce and ship goods, right? So all these factories along this canal benefited tremendously by having the Erie Canal dug. The Erie Canal was a huge, super expensive project, but because the state of New York could tax these factories that were along the canal, the state of New York recouped the cost of building this canal within 2 years. And these factories became extremely wealthy, much more than they were before. And in fact, because of the Erie Canal alone, New York became the wealthiest state in the Union like that, really fast. So other states started copying what New York did, and they built canals too. All right. So now we need to talk about the final topic of this chapter, and this is the Missouri Compromise and the extension of slavery. So Americans, like I said earlier, were expanding westward. And as more and more people were moving out west, a lot of these new territories out west wanted statehood. And one of the territories that a lot of people moved into in the Louisiana Territory, where people there wanted to become a state so they could have representation in Congress, was sorry, Mr. Marquez just texted me. I need to text him back. The people of Missouri wanted representation in Congress, and so they started lobbying the federal government to go through the statehood process so they could become a state. Well, the deal was Americans strongly disagreed about whether or not slavery should be allowed in the Louisiana Territory. Because in 1819, before Missouri became a state, the United States was made up of 22 states. 11 states in the north here, the blue states, were free states where slavery was outlawed. And 11 states in the south here were slave states where slavery was illegal. So Missouri, which is right here, wanted to be added as a slave state. The people in Missouri wanted slaves, right? Well, this would cause a really big problem in the United States because now it means there'd be 12 slave states and 11 free states, right? And this map has a flaw in it, which I'll point out later. And this would disrupt the balance of power between North and South, slave and free states, right? northern states saw that the addition of Missouri would give the slave states a majority in the Senate, and this would make the South more powerful than the North. They didn't want that. They're really afraid that if there's more slave states in Congress than free states, the slave states might pass legislation that enshrines slavery into law. They didn't want that. So to solve this problem, Henry Clay in 1820 persuaded Congress to adopt something called the Missouri Compromise, right? And he was able to do this because when Missouri was waiting to become a state, Maine also applied to become a state, right? So Maine was not yet a state. And here it shows Maine as a free state in 1819. That was not the case. So Maine should be gray right there. So Maine, because it's in the north and was going to be a free state, this would help, right? So unlike Missouri, which was going to be a slave state, Maine would be a free state. So Henry Clay said, hey, why don't we just adopt a compromise? We'll say, Maine, you get to be a free state. Missouri, you get to be a slave state. This keeps the balance of slave states and free states in the United States, right? Instead of having 11 and 11, it will now have 12 and 12. And then for the future, dealing with admitting states into the Union, here's what we'll do. We'll say north of the southern border of Missouri, any part of the Louisiana Territory that is north of the southern border of Missouri, they're all going to be free states, right? Anything in the Louisiana Territory south of the southern border of Missouri is going to be a slave state. Right? And Henry Clay thought, okay, this will solve the problem. Right? Well, another detail about the Missouri Compromise is that it gave Southern slave owners the ability to pursue escaped slaves into the northern states and take them back. So the Missouri Compromise said, hey, if you're in Virginia and you hear that your escaped slave is in Illinois, you can chase that slave into Illinois, grab them off the street, and take them back into your home state, right? And obviously the free states, the abolitionists, were not okay with this. So Northerners were really upset with the Missouri Compromise because they thought allowing slavery is a violation of the Constitution. They thought nowhere in the Constitution does it say that Southerners should be able to go into other states and repossess slaves. Like, that's a clear violation of the Constitution in a lot of ways. Southerners were upset because they didn't think that Congress should be able to have the power to make laws about slavery at all. Remember, Southerners are really paranoid that Congress is going to pass a law that outlaws slavery in the entire United States. They do not want this. They believed that laws need to be made by the states and the states alone, and that the federal government's laws that apply to the whole country should not be about slavery, right? They thought slavery belongs to the states and the states alone. So nobody liked the Missouri Compromise. And in fact, Thomas Jefferson says that the Missouri Compromise is going to be really bad too. Thomas Jefferson is an old man by this point in 1820, and he has a very famous quote. He says, "This momentous question, like a fireball in the night, awakened and filled me with terror. I considered it at once the knell of the Union. We have the wolf by the ears, and we can neither hold him nor safely let him go." So Thomas Jefferson understands that the slavery issue that the nation is grappling over is really, really, really dangerous. And his fears were justified. All right, that is it for chapter 7. The next videos will be about your